Turns out they haven't been that honest to us over the past 10 days. I will report in this video about what they found already 10 days ago at Santorini. Gas emissions, land rise at another place that they didn't expect. And then we also talk about Colombo. And now all of a sudden they're deploying vessels and submarines to search the seafloor because the volcano was rumbling their butts and said on Friday, well, can you take me serious? Because they were all like, oh, it's just tectonic, blah, blah, blah. It seems to be volcanic only. And that's what the threat is. So we will look into all this, guys. I tell you what the scientists have found and what they're saying. And it's a little bit mind-blowing because we have been fed a little bit of a different narrative by the officials over the last 2 weeks. So let's dive right in. The volcano really had to shake them up in order to get these scientists to move their butts. I have to say it like this. So finally, there's some action in the game because the Greek research vessel reaches Santorini Amorgos region, and also they are deploying submarines to see what is going on because the rumbling that I reported, the sudden change in seismic activity that was very, very intense, that could have been an underwater volcano already erupting. And finally, they're stopping to tell us that this is only tectonic and that there's no volcanic activity involved. Because, let's be honest, there is a Greek scientist that said Nea Kameni, that is part of Santorini's archipelago caldera, is active. It is active and nobody really has looked at it. We have talked about, the Santorini, and there's a magma chamber, and there's the underwater Volcano Kolumbo, and there's so many fault lines and tectonic plates. But, and here comes the news, he said over the last 10 days, we have seen reports of increased gas emissions and rising water temperatures. Boom. There it is, guys. Why haven't they told us 10 days ago? Question mark. Another question mark. We hear about this now. These are clear signs that something is going on. The trembling and now gas emissions, increased gas emissions and rising water temperatures. That's what the researchers are saying are clear signs that Nea Kameni is showing activity. Because until now, the seismologists have denied any link between the recent tremors and volcanic activity. I've been saying this from the start. I don't believe it. And you guys, I think you were with me on this because we've been monitoring so many volcanic activities and we've seen what happens before a volcano erupts or causes a magma intrusion. And this was clear signs. And now, finally, they are admitting this. This is how they called it to the press. We are reconsidering our opinion after observing secondary effects. And also the fault line that they have been monitoring, where they said, oh yeah, this is just a fault line rupturing. There's no volcanic activity involved. It is that fault line is related to volcanic activity because they have found evidence of extinct craters along it. And I'll tell you in this video, there's other researchers, they go as far as this is only volcanic, period. It's not tectonic, period. So I'm a little bit upset about this because, again, if they have seen this, if they have observed this phenomenon for over 10 days at the Nea Kameni area, this is close. Why haven't they said, let's precautiously, let's be better safe than sorry, get everyone off the island, get everyone off of Santorini? The information that I gave you now is coming from a Greek professor of geology and sedimentology at the University of Patras. It's Professor Avram Tselilidis. And he also said that he doesn't rule out the possibility that there's a new crater forming where the epicenters are located. Because now that they see old craters along these fault lines, well, where did they come from, right? They have been forming. But then he did downplay the immediate concerns about this new volcano. He says even if a new volcano is forming, there may be no immediate threat. There may be no immediate threat. They still have concerns with Kolumbo. That's an active submarine volcano, also only 4 miles off the coast of Santorini. And there is the possibility that there could be a crater collapse, for example, that could trigger a huge tsunami. And Kolumbo has caused such an event before in 1650. And we know that this submarine caldera at Kolumbo, that the magma chamber there is filling up and has almost the same amount that it has before the last eruption. So Kolumbo is also still in the game. But he says that according to his assessment, that the Santorini earthquakes that we are seeing are related to volcanic activity and are unlikely to exceed a magnitude of 5.5. Yeah, because it's volcanic, they usually don't go that high, right? It's if they're tectonic, they go in the high ranges. That's when you see the big ones. So then he described the 5 stages of volcanic activity. And he said the region is currently experiencing the 3rd stage that is marked by frequent and seismic events. So he says the first stage is calm, and that is then followed by preliminary signs such as weak rumblings and small scattered tremors. And then the 3rd stage, which we are currently experiencing, in his opinion, involves frequent and intense seismic events. And then the 4th stage is an eruption or an intrusion. He only said eruption, but there's always the possibility that we already had an intrusion that is going somewhere underneath the seafloor. And, now this is all coming out. It's strange. I would have loved to hear that 10 days ago. And he also mentioned observations from a research team that is working in the area. And he says, well, Kolumbo has also shown or is showing signs of uplift. Yes, because we know that magma chamber there is gradually filling up, and it has reached that amount. I've reported about this last December when they found this magma chamber. It was a surprise magma chamber. They were really surprised about this. And then we have the rising water temperatures near Kameni. And he says it. These are all warning signs of potential volcanic activity. But for all the last 2 weeks, like the authorities said, so yeah, it's just tectonic and let's prepare for an earthquake, for a big earthquake. But now the government has decided to deploy the Army's geographic service to Santorini to measure any changes beneath Nea Kameni. So now, and he said, yeah, they're seriously monitoring the situation. And there's more out. There is a research vessel from the Hellenic Center for Marine Research. The vessel's called Aigaio, and it's currently scanning the seabed to track changes in the underwater landscape and maybe find this underwater eruption that might have started yesterday. So he says that based on the epicenters that were recorded by seismologists and the volcanic activity pattern, he says, quote, I can say that since Kolumbo and Nea Kameni do not appear to be the sources of tremors, it's likely that a new crater is forming. I've reported that this is likely already a few days ago, and I have received a shitstorm for that. It's only tectonic and blah, blah, blah. But we know that, right? It's just incredible. So this is becoming true. He says the complexity of the seismic patterns is what leaves seismologists puzzled as they struggle to determine which fault line is responsible for the activity. So he says, should there be a new crater that is forming, the signs will become more evident over time. Yeah, I guess so. And he's not the only one, right? It's not that we're like having an isolated scientist who says that and that justifies that the government did stick with their tectonic theory for so long. So there is a professor of natural disasters and Academy of Athens member, Dr. Kostas Sinoulakis, and he says the Friday earthquakes, this heavy incident that we saw in the Santorini Amorgos zone are entirely volcanic. He says the same. And he says we need foreign experts to come in and help us. He said that on television. He said we need a broader meeting with foreign experts over these Santorini earthquakes. So finally things are moving. So because he said about these earthquakes that were recorded on Friday, he said they were of a different type. So the seismic pattern suddenly changed. And he said that is indicating that volcanic magma is rising. It's rising up. That's causing this rumbling because it needs to grind and break through the rocks to come to the surface. And he said, yeah, these vibrations only lasted an hour and a half. But it was clear that these were purely volcanic earthquakes. Magma did go somewhere and then it stopped. So magma is now contained somewhere, as it seems. They are calling it a volcanic swarm occurred. And they also say it was very noisy. And right now, they're trying to examine other parameters to find out what this is. And that's why he says it is time now to gather other experts together with foreign experts who are more experienced. He says we cannot rely on the 2011, 2012 experience from this earthquake swarm because this is something different, more serious. He says we must compare the phenomenon with dozens of other cases to understand where we are headed, what's coming next. This thing is far from being over. There is a decrease in seismic activity right now in the number of earthquakes, which could indicate an improvement in the situation. But also what Dr. Sinoulakis says about that, we cannot say that we are doing better based only on the number of earthquakes. If their nature changes so quickly, like they did yesterday, and they become clearly volcanic, then the phenomenon must be re-examined from the start because it has been something else all the time. So when he talked about Friday, what happened on Friday, and the videos in the end screen, really look at it. It's very interesting. He says there are two possible developments. So the rise of magma may cause the formation of a small volcanic cone, or it may lead to a larger earthquake, or both, in my opinion. So he clearly says that these earthquakes may not be tectonic, but caused by volcanic activity. He says we are next to a volcano that is in an active phase. Yes! So why, for almost 2 weeks, did the authorities say this is just tectonic? So he says the displacement and the earthquakes show that magma is rising to the surface, causing the cracks to break, the rocks to break, getting brittle like a miner mining a tunnel using explosives and heavy machinery. That's rumbling. He says it's possible that the volcanic activity will cease as it has in the past. Yes, of course, hopefully. But he said, I advise caution. Obviously, it can ease. We have seen it before. But we need to start evaluating other parameters such as ground deformations, seabed measurements, and volcanic gases. So he thinks if this trend that the number of earthquakes starts to decrease continues next week, they might be able to draw safer conclusions. Right now, he cannot give an estimate as to when this event will stop. But for now, all the other islands around Santorini are also in the state of emergency. They have also extended the declaration of state of emergency from March 3rd to March 14th. And there's also similar states of emergencies in effect for Taira, Amorgos, Anafi, and Ios. Bang, there we have it, guys. I hope you liked this new information. If you did, leave this video a like, share it with your friends. If you're new here, subscribe. And if you want to support my work and the channel and my dog's vet bills at the moment, go to my buymeacoffee.com/silky website and buy us a coffee or two, and you can follow me on that page for free. And I would love to see you there. And if you want to see more behind the scenes stuff from me, become a member of this channel. And guys, I have to comment on some comments. There was a comment that says, as a researcher myself, I'm really disappointed that you make us pay for your research that should be available for free for everyone. Again, guys, my videos are for free. They're out there on YouTube, right? You don't have to pay for these videos. My membership, this is about my private life, what I am doing behind the scenes when I'm not doing these videos or I'm showing you, it's behind the scenes. Everyone knows what that is. But there's a lot going on in my private life that I'm sharing with you. You've seen my series that is also free to watch about RV travel to save my dog's life. I have a playlist there. You can check that out, what I'm doing. And with my farm, with my horses. And the reason why I'm putting this in the membership level is to at least keep some people out there. There's so many nice people and wonderful people, but there's also some bad people out there. And I don't want to share my private stuff with them. Of course, they can always see it if they become a member of the channel, but it's a little bit of a deterrent for these weirdos out there. So I want to share that. And I know, I'm sorry, there's some people there are many of you that are not members, and I'd love to share that with you. But the reason is, there's many freaks out there and you have to be careful. So this is one of the reasons, but all my videos are free. This is how YouTube works, right? I'm doing the work. I'm not being paid hourly by YouTube. It's not the case. So if you don't watch my videos, I'm not getting anything. And sometimes even if you watch them, there's not much. YouTube is pretty, it's a little bit of a gamble, right? How their CPM is, or if they decide to put commercials into your videos and stuff like this. That just on a side note, because I've read these comments like twice indicating that I'm releasing some secret research in my membership levels. Sometimes I do report about findings that are maybe preliminary or something like this. To give you a heads up. Yeah, there is a heads up. It is what it is, guys. Stay safe. I see you very soon. Bye-bye.